Our topic today is, are you listening? What your body is trying to tell you and how it may speak. Gail is a board certified nurse practitioner and an advanced practitioner of Eden energy medicine, as well as other energy healing modalities. Gail, I'm so glad to see you. I'm always fascinated by how did people find their way into this kind of work. So I would love it if you'd share your story.
Absolutely. So you could call me a pioneer of sorts. I became a nurse practitioner long before people even knew what we were. And so we're talking, this is a long time ago. And then and one of the things that one of my teachers, who was a family physician, said, he said, if you will give your patient 20 minutes to talk about what's going on in their life, they'll be able to tell you what's wrong with them. And I've never forgotten that, because it involves, and I'll expand on it, but it involves a lot of cues that we pick up both verbally and intuitively. And I found myself through my medical part of my career in nursing, using my intuition a lot, but not recognizing exactly that that's what I was listening to. And it would come in ways like, cover the bases, you need to order that test, or nah, you're okay on this thing, or whatever. And it never led me astray. So I became aware of it early on. And so fast forward to 2007, I was sitting, and I've told this story to many people. I was shredding junk mail one day on just this cold, dreary day in October, very overcast and yucky. And I was feeling kind of blah. And this little postcard shows up and it says, do you want to increase your energy? And I'm like, yeah, that'd be nice. And I start to stick it in the shredder. And it was sort of like this hand came and went, no, don't do that. And so I'm holding it and looking at it. And it's a little card for a seminar up in Seattle. I live in Bend, Oregon. So it's a seminar up in Seattle, which is about a 6-hour drive, to get to meet two people that I'd never heard of, Donna Eden and David Feinstein. And I look at it, I can get nursing continuing ed credits for it. So I went, yeah, I'll do that. So the first day of the 2 days was taught by Donna Eden. I had not heard of her before, but she's pretty well known now in the world of, well, very well known, I should say, in the world of energy healing. And so she was teaching that first day, and I was frankly blown away by what I was experiencing, what I was seeing, what I was feeling, and just, really enjoyed the people I met. And I remember standing there in my hotel room that night, and this voice said, your life's about to change. I'm like, okay. So the next day, I'm very intrigued at this point. So the next day, I went to David's presentation, and David, of course, is very involved in the energy, emotional freedom, energy tapping, energy psychology world. And what spoke to me at that time, my left brain, nurse background, was that he showed a series of slides on the effects that emotional freedom tapping had on these different clients, comparing. What really got my attention was comparing what the PET scan, or the PET scans, showed. A small portion of the brain would light up after the person took a benzodiazepine for anxiety, for example. But the tapping lit up a whole much larger section of the brain. That got my attention. And I'm like, okay, I need to find out more about this. So I signed up for Donna Eden's certification program, and the rest is history, because the more I got into it, the more I began to explore. But my left brain inquisitive side was always looking to know, what's going on here? I want to know more. And so that's been my life's work, is finding out the scientific pearls and foundations for so much of this work, because these are ancient traditions that were always known and used. And I think we're re-exploring them. And quite often in healthcare, we have things like it's got to be evidence-based and all of that. And that just means we need to have good studies to suggest, that a technique or test or procedure that we're doing really has merit. But as I got more and more into this, the whole thing just morphed. And now I teach for Donna Edens, I'm on her faculty, and I love explaining to my students and my clients, what some of the mechanisms are behind what we do and why we get the results we do. So that's how I got to where I am.
Wow, I love the fact that you are interested in the science of it, because I think that's so very important, especially with, the way things are going in our current global climate, where some people are skeptical of science and some people demand only the science. You really do sort of bridge the two worlds. So I appreciate that perspective. So let's go ahead and talk about your specific energy healing practice. Obviously, you had a very strong intuition before you began studying with Donna. So how do you use those two together?
Thank you for asking that, because I love being able to blend. So right now, what I've really moved into doing just energy healing work at this point, because honestly, it's so much fun. And it's so empowering for people. And my goal is to empower people to take back charge of their own health, because many times people give their power over to someone else. And whether it's a healthcare provider or whatever, but if people would understand that the body has an innate ability to heal itself, and that we're much more than a physical form and our five senses. There's so much more going on. And in my practice, I do the bulk of what I do is Eden energy medicine. I'm a massage therapist also, so I will do some of the techniques, some specialized reflexology, cupping, things like that, if it seems like that might fit. But what I really like is listening to my intuition as I'm listening to someone talk about what's going on with them. And it gives me those same little, like, okay, you're going to want to check about that. Or I'll even get like downloads, is what I call them, where a question will come in quickly. And I want to say something about that, because I've learned over the years that the intuitive hits are the quick ones. They're right there. When we start to try to analyze what it is, that's your ego. And so I've really learned to trust what I get. The majority of people that come in to see me come in because whatever their issue was, it's not being or hasn't been addressed successfully by Western medicine. And so I will give them a whole different way of looking at what's going on with them. And it's always fun for me when I see how empowered they are, because I'll do some energy tracking. It's energy detective work. I'm looking for where things are not flowing properly and balance things. And then I give them their homework, and then they come back, and 9 times out of 10, people say, yeah, I'm doing the things you told me to do, and I'm doing better. It's just, and they feel empowered.
Thanks for listening. Check out Castle Gate, a novel based on my own ancestral healing journey, at lisabonis.com. In 1921, 4 men set off from Scotland to the United States. Will Garrock, his brother Pete, his son Willie, and his nephew Thomas, all coal miners. They left behind the miners' rows and the nationwide mining strike with its soup kitchens. Their destination was Castlegate, Utah, where they had kin to welcome them before sending for their wives and children. They prospered in America, working in one of the finest mines in Utah. Until that tragic day, March 8th, 1924. Disaster struck. 3 explosions trapping 171 men inside. Rescue crews worked tirelessly for days, but sadly, they could not save a soul. Women were widowed and children were orphaned, and some never recovered from their broken hearts. Castlegate is the true and tragic saga of a Scottish family whose dreams of finding their fortunes in the bountiful coal mines of Castlegate, Utah during the Prohibition era explode in one of the most devastating mine disasters in American history. Learn more at lisabonnes.com.